welcome, Emily, to my lovely studio. Yes, we are in a car. But the cool thing is, though, is that the other day we had a conversation in the car, and it was just so chill. It was so nice. Like, we laughed, we almost cried. Like, it was a good conversation. It's one of those good conversations with a good friend, my dear friend. So this is one of the coolest people in the entire world.
Stop.
Emily.
Yay!
Clapping for yourself.
Hello.
So, Emily, give us a little backstory of who you are. Like, what are you up to right now?
Okay, so my name's Emily. A little backstory, I guess, is that I'm not from Florida. I am from Puerto Rico. I talk with my hands. It's fine. It's all good. I moved here when I was 8 to Florida, and right now I'm in college. I'm 22. I had to think about that. Of course I did. I'm 22, and I'm pursuing a nursing degree. So yeah, that's what's happening.
So
in my
exciting.
Life right
That's so
it's
exciting.
like nerve-wracking, but exciting all at the same time.
Yeah, and she also just came from her statistics class.
Yeah.
Which is like the last thing you think of when you think of nursing, I guess. In my mind, at least.
I would think so, right? I was trying to avoid any class I didn't have to take, and that was one of them. So I was like,
And here we are. How is that going?
it's the second day.
Okay.
Going decent.
Yeah.
Need the calculator. Other than that, we're good. We're good, ready to roll.
You need the calculator. Okay. That's so good. So good. What a good word.
It's all good.
So tell us a little bit about, like, your faith. Like, how did you come to the faith?
Okay.
Like, give us a little, like, important moments of your life that led you to where you are now.
I got you.
You got me.
Okay, so I think with my faith, I was raised in a Catholic household, but my family didn't really go too much to church. At least my immediate family, like my mom and my dad, didn't go to church every Sunday and things like that. But they were both raised going to church every Sunday and doing the whole what's it called? This whenever you do this classes and you get baptized, and then there's a whole process.
Oh, okay.
But
I wasn't raised Catholic.
yes,
So
I was like, I know it in Spanish, but in English, forget it. But so that's what I was around, and Christianity, it was not anywhere near that. But then I moved to Florida, and we kind of really didn't go to church at all. At least my immediate family. And then when I met my boyfriend Lucas, we started going.
We love Lucas.
Me too. And we started going to the church that we go to now. One time he invited me with his family, and then in that moment I really didn't get into God until a couple years later. And he really introduced me to it, but then I really got into it. Yeah. And then I think just life happened, and I didn't think there was any other choice but God, and I think that's what really brought me close to God. And that's how my faith really grew, and that started, I guess, after I graduated high school. So 2018, that was when my faith really started to grow, and now me and God are tight.
Now look at you. You're like BFFs.
We're doing the thing.
That's so good. That's so good. I love that. Because I just had my first Close to Creation meetup this past weekend. And it was the best. Just like a bunch of girls came together and we hiked and we did a Bible study, and you were a part of that.
Yes.
And like this girl's faith, she is a woman of God. Like,
Lord, yes.
And so it was really cool to have you a part of that. So tell us a little bit about the meetup. How did it go for you? Like, what did you learn?
So for the meetup, we studied Genesis 1, and when it came to Genesis, I was not about it. Like, I was just trying to get to the New Testament.
Yeah, it's a hard book to go through.
Yeah, but then when we really dived in, and I like to be an observer. I like to observe people and see what they say and what they're feeling, and like see how their emotion behind it. So when I was hearing everyone say what they were saying, I really got into it, and I was like, oh, maybe Genesis is cool, you know? And I just really liked it because God took his time making everything the way that he did, and it's obviously for a reason. And one thing you said that stood out to me was when you were saying that, and in Genesis when God made it and he said it was good.
Yeah.
I think that really stuck with me when you said that, because it didn't really stand out to me when I first read it and we first read it, but when you said it, I was like, yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
And I really think that stood out to me. And then the meetup itself, when we did the hiking and just being out in nature, there was moments that I caught myself just looking out into the trees and just like really appreciating God and what he created. And then we were talking about how he created it. So I think there was just a whole circle.
It's like it was planned that way or something. I don't know. But no, and that's the coolest thing, and that's what I love about Close to Creation is like the whole point of it is to get you out into nature and to help you interact with God in a new way with his creation. And so going back to the story, and I think one thing that was prominent to me just looking back on it on the meetup in the beginning is when I talked about how, you know, as Christians, we have to understand what we believe about creation. And it's one thing to believe, okay, I believe in Jesus, I believe what he did, but then are we also, you know, believing the creation story? Like, are we basing our entire life off of this story? Because we can't just believe one section of the Bible and not believe the other.
100%.
And, you know, especially when it comes to science and evolution and all of these things that kind of go against, in some ways, what we believe. So it's really important for that. But I definitely loved what you said about how when God made things, like, it was just good. And I know that you said that I said that, but just like you saying it again, it's like, it is so true. And, you know, for you and me, when we look that, you know, because at the end of Genesis 1, it talks about how God created man, which basically is just humankind, not just man, but man and woman in his image. And that when he made us, like everything else in the story of creation, God saw it and it was good. And then he made us and he saw it and we were very good. And so it's just like,
we were very good.
We are very good. And like, that's how he sees us, and we need to understand that's how he sees us. And so that's why it's important to go back to that creation story, because Genesis, like you said, is a hard book to read.
It's a long one too.
I can't tell you how many times I wanted to start like the Bible in 1 year, and then it's like first page is like Genesis, and I'm like,
it's like, can we start somewhere else?
How am I going to get through all of this? And so it can be really intimidating, but you know, having Bible studies and having more intentional conversations about each piece of Genesis is where you can like see something new and be like, wow, like that's actually amazing.
Oh yeah.
And that relates to me on a level that I never thought possible.
Correct. I agree.
And so another thing that we talked about at the meetup that we've also talked about like this week is about how God wasn't in a hurry. That God was not like, I have to get everything done in one day. Like, no, it took him 6 days to create everything. Now, he probably, I mean, he's God. He definitely could have created everything in one day. But he made the decision to space it out and be intentional about every single day. What does that speak to you in your own life when it comes to, like, hurry and the busyness of life that we currently experience?
Okay. So I struggle with rushing in life and just not really appreciating everything for what it is in that moment, because I'm always on to the next thing. And we talked about that. It's just like always being in a rush and not really appreciating and taking the time to be in the present moment. But when we talked about God taking his time and it took him 6 days to create everything that he did, I was like, oh, I can't even do something for 6 days, and I'm like not in a rush to be done with it, you know? Yeah. And I think I have to take that into consideration and understand that not everything needs to be rushed, and that good things take time. I think that's someone says that. But someone said that somewhere.
Good things take time. Someone quoted that.
But I think it's important that our Creator took his time with things and he wasn't in a rush. But in this life that we live, it's so busy and always on the go and grind every day to get what you need. But then it's like, where's the peace in that? Where's the taking a moment to just appreciate what we have in front of us? I think that's super key in all of that, and it's so hard, but I have to learn to be more intentional on just in the waiting period and in the peace in that.
That's so good. Because as Christians, like, we're supposed to be able to experience the peace that surpasses all understanding, but in this life that we live and how we're, I'm reading this book called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, and I highly recommend it to like everyone. You should read it.
I need to read it.
You need to read it. It is so good. It's changing the way that I think about my own life and how I go about my day. Because when we look at the life of Jesus, like, yes, it's easy to say, like, what would Jesus do? It would be like, okay, in this moment, am I going to choose anger? Am I going to choose kindness? It can, be easy to look at him and be like, I want to be more like Jesus in my relationships and these things. But if we look at his actual lifestyle and how he lived, he was not rushed whatsoever. Like, he walked, which of course they didn't have cars back then, but like, he could have gotten there way faster than he did, but he chose to take the slower route. And actually, the one thing that I really like about in this book is that he was interrupted all the time. Like, he would be on the way to perform a miracle for someone, to heal someone, and someone else would stop him. And so he would take the time to slow down and pay attention to that person and like what they needed in that moment and heal them. And it's like in our own lives, like, we get stopped by something and we immediately think it's an inconvenience.
Yes.
It's like we're hurrying. It's, this is like the worst analogy and it just came up in my mind, but we're like speeding, to get somewhere, and then we get pulled over by the cop.
No, yes, and we're like, oh, this is such an inconvenience. We're not thinking like we're speeding. We're thinking, why is this cop stopping me?
Exactly. But like, the cop is there for your own protection.
Correct.
And it's just like, there's a reason. Just like, slow it down a little bit. But even, like, let's say you're going, let's give another analogy because that one wasn't that great. But like, if you're going about your day and you are just trying to get things done, and someone at work or at school, and you're like just trying to do homework, or you're trying to, finish your to-do list, and like someone stops you and it's just like, hey, like, I really need to talk to someone. Can I talk to you right now? Like, 9 times out of 10, like, our brain immediately goes, at least for me, is like, oh, I don't have time for this right now. Like, yes, I want to listen to your story, like, but I just have so much to do, and it's an inconvenience. And even if we sit there and talk with them, we may still be like, okay, like, all right. Yeah, I hear you. I understand you. I'm so sorry. Like, that really stinks. I'll be praying for you. Like, okay, I gotta go. And it's like, we're just constantly in a rush. We're constantly hurried. And if you think you're not in a rush, the book also said, like, are you trying to choose the fastest lane at a stoplight? Like, which one has the least amount of cars? Or, which aisle at the grocery store is going to be the fastest?
Yes.
And so it's like those things, we realize that, wow, we are actually like in a constant state of hurry. And how can we experience peace in that hurry? Well, it's by looking at how Jesus lived.
Correct.
And like the slowness of his lifestyle. And we also talked a lot about like social media and like being on our phone. And so how does that work its way into everything? And what have you been learning about that recently?
So I told Caitlin, I want like a landline phone. I don't want my phone anymore because I just want to slow down and not have anything to do with anything.
Yeah, like, it was the funniest thing. She said that, and I was like, that's what you want to go to?
So listen, hear me out. So when it comes to a landline phone, you don't have the option to go on Instagram or put someone on speaker or can you put someone on speaker? I don't know. But I don't know the new landlines, but I know what the old school landlines.
The new one where it's like the one, because you want the one you can like move around the house with.
Yes,
it's not connected.
It's not the cord.
Yeah, you can put that on speaker.
So I'm used to the cord one. Okay, cool. See, things are advancing. But I want those type of phones now, because when I go on my phone and I'm talking on speaker, I can put someone on speaker and I just go back to going on Instagram or going on Twitter or whatever social media I have, or Pinterest, and I have to be more intentional of not doing that and just being present in the conversation. But it's so hard sometimes. It's so hard because my brain, like, I feel weird if I'm not doing something, even if it's just I'm literally talking to someone on the phone, but like I'm just on the go. And I feel like with social media, like, I personally deleted TikTok just because I was just on there so much. Yeah. And some people don't have that issue where they can have it and they just move on or not be on it all day. But I just got constantly scrolling. Yeah. And I think it's just beneficial to me because I think my screen time went down by a significant amount. And my phone tells me to.
It like gives you that reminder every week. Like,
yes.
Hey, your screen time's like down 30%. Or it's up like 60%. You're like, ooh.
Just tell me when I'm down. Tell me when I'm down. And I think just being... Honestly, I think intentionality is to be the word of the year for me. Because I need to also just be intentional with what I'm doing. And also I've been practicing with hurrying and just being present in the present moment. I've been practicing eating breakfast without my phone.
Wow.
And that's been going good.
Good.
And I'm like hearing my hunger cues and not just eating everything. So it's day two.
Hey, that's so good. Because that's one thing that I mentioned this week is that I'm trying to do one thing at a time. So it's like if I'm eating breakfast, I'm eating breakfast. I'm not eating breakfast and like watching my phone, because you're right. Like you just like easily overeat because you're not paying attention. And, you know, sometimes like I think there's a place and a time for like going on a walk and like listening to a podcast or like putting in when you're working out or whatever. But then it's also I'm trying to be intentional about just like getting outside and like just walking and like seeing like maybe praying about someone or maybe just like talking to God, be like, hey God, what's up? Like, how's your day going? Like, this is how mine's going, you know, and just doing one thing at a time. Like, I feel like that makes our lives much more simpler. Whereas, like, when we're doing a million things all at once, like when I'm eating breakfast, when I'm on my phone, it's like, I feel like I'm rushed. It's like, I feel like hurried. It's like, okay, I need to do this. And I don't know. It's just like, don't experience that peace. And it's just, But it does take intentionality, and that's the hardest part of it. Yeah. And, like, people do not want to get rid of their social media. They don't. And even yesterday, I was walking around the campground, and, I mean, just everyone was sitting outside, which, like, props for them for being outside.
Breathing fresh air, great.
Yes, but everyone's just, like, sitting there on their phones, just, like, scrolling. And even, like, people, like, parents with families, and, like, there's this kid, like, running around just by himself while the two parents are just sitting on their phone. And I'm not saying this to judge them, but it's just, like, that's what our society has come to, that it's just, like, we'd much rather spend time on a phone than spending time with our family or, like, our loved ones or, you know, being present. Yeah. And so, yeah, that was really sad.
No, and I think also when it comes to that, since growing up in Puerto Rico, and a lot of my family is from Puerto Rico, my grandparents don't know how to use iPhones. And you would think it's a bad thing, but I'm so happy they don't know how to use iPhones, because whenever they do anything, it doesn't involve their phone. When they're eating, they're just eating. When they're walking, they're just walking. When they go to do their house chores, because my grandma, she still has chickens and wants to feed her chickens. So many chickens. I want chickens. And so it's so nice. And then when they wake up in the morning, they don't go straight to their phone. And I have to be so intentional of not doing that, because I almost rely on my phone, the light of my phone, to wake me up, because I'm like, I don't want to be awake right now. Like, I want to keep sleeping. And I think I just love that for them, and that's why I also, whenever I go visit them, I realize that, and I'm like, wow, I'm really on my phone a lot. Like, I need to be more intentional of not being on my phone and just enjoying the present moment, enjoying nature, and just really absorbing the peace of it all. That not everything is rush. And it's super hard. It's really hard.
It's so hard, but we can learn so much from our dear old grandparents who, like, don't know. It's either, like, they have no idea, or they are the ones who are on their phone the entire time.
Yes,
it's like, there's no in between. But I loved what you said, just, like, getting out in nature and experience the peace that is to be found there, like, not being rushed. And that's why, like, I advocate so much for getting out into nature, because I feel like that's a time where we can really just slow our pace. That things don't have to be, like, a million miles a minute, you know, like, we can just slow down and just breathe in the fresh air and just, like, look at God's glory on display, look at his goodness and faithfulness just by, like, nature itself, because obviously, again, like, he is the creator of all of that, so all of it is naturally going to point back to him, just like a painting. The painting would point back to the artist itself, or himself, herself, whoever.
100%.
Yeah, so thank you so much. This is so good. I am filled. I am encouraged. And Emily needs to be on, like, every month, right? Yes.
I need to, because I will go visit wherever you are.
You can come visit. Yes. Listen, they're going to come visit us in Montana.
Yes.
So,
I'm so excited.
We're holding them to that. But then also, we can just, like, Zoom each other. And be
know, right?
Hey, like, what you learning in...
It's like almost like a lecture Zoom, but not really.
But like a good lecture Zoom.
No, of course. Like, it's like that lecture you want to get on, not the lecture that you're dreading. You're like, oh my gosh.
Yes. So,
no, but I wanted to add just one last thing.
Do it, girl. Do it. Add it.
It was, I think, and not to call Lucas out, but But
call him out.
No, Lucas is a lover of music. He loves music. Like that boy and his music. God bless him. Because I do not have the music taste that he has, and he has great music taste. But whenever we do go like on bike rides or walking in nature, sometimes he wants to have music in the background. Yeah. And sometimes and then he'll ask me, he's like, what do you want to listen to? I'm like, nature. And I'm like, I want to listen to nature. Yep. How about like we take a walk without music? How about like we just listen to the birds and the trees? That's so and good. I think we found a middle ground. Yeah. Sometimes music, sometimes not. But I loved it. And also, I think it was one time we went to the beach and we forgot our speaker. And that's like do or die for Lucas. Like, you need this. He needs a speaker at the beach. But I remember one time we just forgot it. And then he was like, what are we going to do? I'm like, the ocean. The ocean sounds. Yeah. Ocean sounds. Sleep to the ocean. Yeah. And I think I really like that. And I love what you do with Close to Creation, because I was explaining it to my friend Camilla, and I explained everything like Close to Creation and how God works with nature to get us closer. And then she was like, I love that. And I was like, I love that too.
Oh, thank you, friend. But no, that's such a good point. Such a good point. And there's so many times that like I've been out on hikes and people are just like blasting music, and not only is it not considerate about others, but it's also just like, you're missing out on one of the most beautiful things. Like, even just like there's birds like talking to each other over here, and I'm like, wow, like
what are they saying?
Yeah, what is it? Like, and it's really cool when you get out in nature and you're removed, like there's no distractions, there's like, and you just listen to it, and it's so beautiful, it's so peaceful. So if that's an area where your life just is, there's no peace to be found, like get out into God's creation, like go and explore, go on a hike. Like, it doesn't have to be that you're like drive 15 hours to a national park to see God's glory or God's beauty on display. Like, no, you can just drive like down the street, you can walk outside, you can walk in your neighborhood, like anywhere and everywhere you can see it. And so just pay more attention to it, like listen to it, and like I think that there's such a peace to be found there that can help all of us.
100%, because the peace is there, we just have to be intentional about having it and receiving it.
So good. So good. So good. I'm so thankful for you. I'm thankful for you. Okay, well,
he's a cool guy. Cool girl.
Cool girl. She's a cool guy too. But thank you so much for listening to this. If you enjoyed this style, I really enjoyed it. Like, I'm serious. I'm gonna bring Emily back like as much as I can. Like, it's so cute.
I'll fly out. It's fine. It's all good.
Your mom messaged me that day. She's like, "Thank you so much for including Emily." Like, and everything. It was just the sweetest thing. I was just like, "Oh, of course, she's gonna watch this." Yeah. So. Love you, Mom.
Love you, Mom.
But yeah, so if you enjoyed this style and us exploring the word and talking about Close to Creation in this kind of space, like just let us know, and like how it relates to you in your life and what you can like use from it, I guess. Like, because today we talked about like slowing down and finding peace and all of those things and exploring God's creation, and I think that that's just so beautiful. So if you like this style, then just like put it down in the comments below. Like, just let me know, because I will definitely bring her on all the time then. I agree. And yeah, so make sure to like, subscribe, all the things. Share it. Yeah, share it with a friend, because like this conversation encouraged me, and I'm sure that it will encourage so many people. So yeah, I love you very much. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And see y'all next time.
Bye.
Alright, let's see. Testing. And now testing.
1, 2,
3.
Yeah.
What? Okay. Do we want to like pray before we do this for some spiritual guidance?
We can.
Amen.
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 Great.
All right. So, welcome, Emily, to my lovely studio.